Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to our LiveWire. We are going through Call Flow Builder, Mastering the Art of Call Flow Management. Um, Before we get going, as people are joining, I mentioned it earlier, there is a chat in the bottom right corner. If you would like to throw in any specific use cases you're here for, anything that you're looking to learn, we love that information. So go ahead, feel free to throw your comments and questions in there as we go throughout today's LiveWire. We have, I'm going to throw this in the chat. If you want to follow along on today's demo, first thing you're going to want to do is create a SignalWire space. So if you go to signalwire.com/sign-in, you can either sign in if you have one or create one real quick. Then you can follow along with us as we do today's demo. I am also going to throw in a link if you'd like to download. If you'd like to download the presentation, there are some resources at the back of the presentation that I will not show today, but it's going to be step-by-step instructions on how we created today's demo. So feel free to download that if you would like. If you are watching the recording, we will put that in the room video description. But thank you again for joining us. Let's meet who's talking to you today. So my name is Chelsea Botchke. I'm a product marketing manager here at SignalWire. Shortly, you are going to meet my colleague, Nick Amhouse. He is our technical support lead and one of our experts on Call Flow Builder. Also on hand in the room is our support and our customer success team. So they'll be the ones answering questions. If you have them, throw them in the chat. If you have a very specific use case, something that's a little bit more in depth than what we've covered today, please let one of our team members know. And we have some virtual rooms that post LiveWire. We can have some one-on-one conversations, answer some questions that you might have if you're not ready to ask them today. If you are watching this as a recording, you can always reach us at support@signalwire.com. Very quickly, our agenda is very short. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, so we'll go through just a couple slides. We'll go through what Call Flow Builder is, introduce you to what variables and nodes are, give you a quick introduction into SWML, which is SignalWire's markup language, touch on connecting to third parties, and then we'll go right into our demo. So easy peasy. So what is Call Flow Builder? That is what we are all here for today. So it is an easy to use graphical interface that allows you to create a phone system and manage the flow of incoming calls. You build by dragging and dropping nodes onto a canvas. So very easy, does not require any coding. Terms you're going to hear today, like I said, nodes, modules, SWML. There's a few things that we'll go over and we'll explain them as we use them in the demo. You can build fully functional IVRs, or you can go as simple as using Call Flow Builder to, forward a call to any other phone number or SIP endpoint. The added functionality of some of our nodes, which is our request and condition nodes, those allow you to build more complicated IVRs. Those can interact with servers or applications that you're already currently using. And why should you use it? It's a great question. So it's really easy to create and customize call flows. Like I said, especially if you don't have those developer resources, you're doing it yourself. It doesn't require any development skills. It's going to save you a lot of time. And it allows you to scale your communication as you're growing. So it's flexible. It ensures that you have efficient distribution among agents. If you're, going to different phone numbers, if you're maybe talking specifically in a call center scenario, it does simplify the debugging process. So instead of going through lines of code and trying to figure out what's wrong, where the errors coming from, we make it real easy and simple. It will tell you in big, bright letters, there's something wrong with this. You need to come back here and fix this. And you're using plain, English and text. We're not asking you to go in and encode within a lot of these nodes. Um, and if there is, a lot of complexity to your current system, this is going to remove that. It's very simple. You're dragging and dropping and connecting things together. And lastly, it's personalized customer interactions. It makes it quick and easy for customers to get to the most appropriate department by routing them based on caller data. So you can connect to and integrate with your CRM system and other backend systems and collect that caller data and use that and utilize that in other ways. All right, what are nodes and variables? So a node or a module, sometimes they're called, are what we're referring to as the draggable instructions. So as you can see in my little GIF or GIF, however you want to say it, you're dragging it from the menu over onto the canvas, and then we're just connecting them. There's an array of options here that you can use to control the flow of the incoming call. Variables are going to allow you to create a call flow that responds to user input and other outside information. And that's all I'm going to give you as far as definitions. And then SWML. SWML is SignalWire's markup language, which allows you to build relay applications. There's a very informative guide that I have linked here in the presentation. So if you're looking at the downloaded version, you can just click on it. If you're in the room here right now, I'm going to put it in the chat. So feel free to check out this more in-depth guide on SWML. But I'm not going to go super far into it because it's not the main focus of today's LiveWire. But should you want to dive deeper, this is a good place to start. And then finally, really connecting to third parties. We know that there's a lot of third-party APIs and applications out there. You can utilize what we call the request node. And we'll briefly show you the request node in today's demo. But you can go much further with it than what we're going to do today. So if that's something very specific to your use case, let us know and we can have that one-on-one conversation with you. One of our support staff can do that with you. Awesome. Okay, like I said, no death by PowerPoint. So I'm going to just go right into the demo. Let me switch over. There we go. So if you're following along and you are logged into your space, welcome to your dashboard. This is where you're going to start out. We're actually going to go right down here to Call Flow Builder. Right now, we don't have any call flows, so we're going to start from scratch. So we'll just go up to Add New. Let's give it a name. So today's demo, I am nostalgic, and so we're going to do a call flow for a movie theater because I know a lot of us are calling movie theaters these days. So our SignalWire movie theater demo. Awesome. Okay, so when you start out, you're going to automatically get popped into this canvas, and it's going to handle call as your default. Will there, Adam, I'm just looking at the chat, so I'm sorry if I missed some questions. Adam asked if there will be a price to use the builder after beta. The pricing is based on usage. So it doesn't cost you to go in here and build in Call Flow Builder. Right. And there's no additional cost to use the actual builder itself. So you can come in here and play with this as much as you want, and we're not going to charge you for that. Yes. That's a very good question. Awesome. Okay. So we're starting with handle call. The very first thing what we want to do here is we need to answer the call. So we're going to drag and drop our answer call node, and we're just going to connect it. Easy peasy. Now, because we're a movie theater, and I like to be a little bit more fancy, let's add a audio file just to alert the person that they have called and their phone call got connected. So we're going to add a play audio or TTS, which is text to speech node. And in here, I'm going to choose play audio file. And I found this, this is a link from wavesource.com. This is just like a chime sound that I found that I liked. So I'm going to pop that in here. So what's going to happen here is the person's going to call in. We're going to answer the call, and then immediately this audio file is going to play. Then we're going to put them right into the first set of options. So to do that, we're going to start with the gather input node. I'm going to pop that in here and connect them. So I'll back up a little. So our gather input is going to be what the first person hears when they first call. So I want to welcome them for calling. So we're going to make this a text to speech, and then you can choose from all sorts of different languages in the drop-down menus here. I'm going to choose English. So let's do English. I'm going to do a male voice, and there's an array of voice options that you can choose. I'm going to choose Joey, and then you'll pop in what you want to write. So maybe it's thank you for calling SignalWire movie theater, where every day is movie day. Now we ahead of time need to figure out, what do we want our selections to be? Like, how do we want to direct the person when they're calling? So I'm going to pop in the options here. So it's going to be, please select from one of the following options. Select or say 1 for available movie times. Select 2, say or select 2 to hear hours of operation. Select or say 3 to talk to our ticket office. So you want to give the person the options here in this first gather input. And then you've got some options here. So the caller presses or says is what you want that response to be from the caller. So like I put in the instructions, the caller is either going to press 1 or say 1. We'll add another option, and they're going to either press 2 or say 2, and so on and so forth. 3. Now I didn't state it in the text, but by default, I'm not sure people typically just get into a recording and then they just start hitting 0 because they maybe just want to talk to a person, or they think that will get them faster to where they want to go. So I am going to add an option for 0 just to have that input option. And then at the very bottom, you've got your wait for input. And this is in seconds. I'm just going to pop in 5 seconds. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our first gather input created. Now we're going to start really getting into it. The first option is if we want for movie times. Sorry, lost track of my thought. So we want to offer the movie times if somebody presses 1. I'm going to throw in another gather input here and connect it. So for this, we could easily just say press 1 and read off what movie times are. Because we're not totally in the 90s, maybe we want to send a text message with the movie times instead of listing them off, having the person hear them and then totally forget them. So my 2 options for this gather input are going to be option 1 is you can listen to the movie times, or option 2 is we'll send you a text message with those movie times, then you won't forget. So we'll do what we did similarly with the first gather input, is we will do a text to speech. We'll go in and choose our language, and then the gender and voice option that we want. And then this text to speech, Then this first text to speech is going to list out exactly what I just said. So press 1 to hear the movie times, press or say 2 to get the text message. And then we'll just repeat what we just did. So caller presses 1 or says 1, caller presses 2 or says 2. Okay, so for this first option, we are going to pop in another audio or TTS node. And again, you're going to see some of these be repeated quite a bit. And now we can put in our text to speech, English, pop in our voice. Okay, so for our movie theater times, maybe Mean Girls is playing at 12:45 and 2:15 and 5 o'clock. Okay, then The Godfather, gotta go with the classic. That's gonna play at 1:45, 3:25, and 6 o'clock. Okay, and then Batman. Can't go wrong with Batman. Batman's gonna play at 12:30, 1:30, and let's go 5:45. Okay, so we've got our times in. So now if the person calls and they choose option 1 and then they choose option 1 again, they're just going to hear a text to speech of the movie times. And then once we have that figured out, we do need to end the call. So you're going to actually go up to the hang up call node, and we want to make sure we end the call. If we don't end the call with the hang up node and the person on the other end does not end the call will just keep going. So we do want to make sure that we always have some sort of resolution at the end of the flow. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to do option 2, which is going to be the send an SMS text to the caller with the movie times. So this one, we're going to actually go down here and grab send SMS. We'll connect that here. Now I want to preface that with sending outbound text messages, in order to be compliant with the TCR, which is the campaign registry, you do have to have a brand or campaign registered. We do, for the purpose of today's demo, have a campaign registered so that we can show you how to do it. If you are following along and doing this demo with me, this portion is not going to work for you until you get that brand or campaign set up. So just keep that in mind. So for this guy, we want that 2 phone number. We're going to pop in the % curly bracket call dot from curly bracket. So what that means is that's going to pop in the phone number from the person who's calling. And then the from phone number is actually going to be one of our phone numbers. This phone number will be different for you as you're doing this demo. And I will show you where and how to purchase a phone number within your dashboard. So then we can pop in all of our times here into the SMS text portion. And so now the person will get this as a text message instead of having to listen and write down the movie times. And then like we did before, we have to make sure we hang up the call. Perfect. For now, I am going to leave the unknown and no input alone. And once I hand the demo over to Nick, he's going to show you how to kind of take this demo from this very basic flow up a notch and do some more advanced functionality with it. So for now, we're going to leave those. And we're going to go all the way back to that first gather input node. So for this guy, option 2 was to hear hours of operation. So like we did before, we're going to grab that play audio or TTS node, connect it, fill in our required languages and voice. And then we're going to pop in what we want it to say. So for this one, it's, we're open Tuesday through Thursday, 11:30 to 10, Friday and Saturday from 11 to 12, and so on and so forth. Once we have this here, you can hang up the phone call, which would be totally fine. It could be a little abrupt. So in this case, we can either hang it up or we can drag it all the way back and connect it and loop it back around. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and connect it to the hang up. And then lastly, for option 3, this is where we're going to forward to that ticket office if somebody wants to talk to a person. So we have the forward to phone is the node. Grab option 3, drag it over. And then from here, you're going to fill in some of these required sections. So again, the default from, you want to put in that % curly bracket call from. That's going to tell you it's coming from the number that's calling in. Your default timeout, these are in seconds. So if nothing is happening after 15 seconds, just times out the call. And then in this section, the phone number 1 would be where we're forwarding that call to. So I don't have a phone number yet to forward this to that's active. So I'm going to leave this alone here, but you could potentially forward to your own personal phone number. You could purchase a phone number within the SignalWire space. You've got a lot of options here to where you want to forward the call to. If you have a soft phone. And then you've got your timeout seconds again. You got some other features that you can fill out. Perfect. And then, so you've got some options here, right? We've got success, no answer, busy, decline, and error. If the phone forward is a success, then you just got to pop this hang up call in here. So once the call is done, it knows to hang it up. And then these other options, I'm going to pop in a play audio or TTS file. We're going to put in a message that is, maybe it's for a voicemail. Let's go voicemail. We'll again have to repeat our steps a little bit and choose that language and voice. And then here I'm going to say, thanks for calling the ticket desk. We're currently helping other customers. Please leave a message and we will get back to you. So for any of these options here, I just want to take a voicemail. So we're just going to drag them all to the same place. So I've got that audio file that's going to play. And then I'm going to come over here and there is a voicemail recording node. We're going to grab that. And here I want a beep to play because by default, people know that when they hear that beep, they need to start talking. So we'll turn the beep on. And then the rest of these you can fill in to your specifications. So your maximum recording length, how long you want it to go before it times out. If there's silence, you can say after 30 seconds, if there's silence, terminate the call. And then lastly, you can choose your format. And so you can either do a WAV file or MP3. For this case, I'm just going to do MP3. And then lastly, we want to hang up the call. Perfect. And then we have a press 0 option over here that I haven't done anything with yet. I think that because of the way that people typically treat incoming menus when they call, if they're pressing 0, I'm going to guess he or she wants to talk to somebody. So I'm going to actually just forward that to the phone number. Simple enough. Awesome. Okay. And then this unknown and no input, I'm very shortly going to hand over to Nick and he's going to show you what we can do with those. So right now we have a pretty decent, but very basic call flow. And so if you're ready and if you think, okay, I've got this going, now I want to test it, you can go over to deploy. And once you deploy, this is now a workable call flow. So I could give it a call. Oh.
Thank you for calling SignalWire Movie Theater, where every day is movie day. Please select from one of the following options. Select or say 1 for available movie times. Select or say 2 to hear our hours of operation. Select or say 3
1.
to talk to hear a list of our current movies and times. Press or say 1. To get a text with our current movies and times, press or say 2.
2.
That was not a valid option. Would you like to try again? To hear a list of our current movies and times, press or say 1. To get a text with our Mean Girls, 12:45 p.m., 2:15 p.m., 5.
Okay, so we've got a workable version now. But now, Nick, I'm going to invite you up and let you screen share, and you can kind of take over and show us. Let's see. There we go. Hi, Nick. Welcome.
How's it going? Yeah, let me share my screen now. Hang on just a second. There we go. All right, so here's Chelsea's flow that she was just making. So we can work on this and try to make it a little bit better. So this is the, I guess, the best no code solution right here. My example will use, I guess, not really code. There's not a specific language I'm going to write in, but I guess it'll use sort of coding principles and operations. So let's go through the flow one by one and see how we can just make this better. It comes in, gets answered. We hear the chime. It hits our gather input. This is all great, but the first thing we need to look at is these unknown and no input. Unknown will, of course, happen if the gather input detects something that's not one of the choices you have. And this might be something you want to use if you're trying to gather something that you could never really predict what the caller might say. But here we are predicting, and then no input is self-explanatory. It's what happens if it doesn't detect any input. So what I'm going to use now is I'm going to use some of our decision modules right here. I'm going to create a set module or a set variable module, and I'm going to put both of these guys to the same one. Right here, this is going to be used to stop a loop. Because essentially what a lot of people will do and what can work is you just take these endpoints and you just loop them right back to the same module, right? And it'll work, but the problem with this is that if someone, let's say I do the no input one, if they just sit on the line, it's going to loop forever and forever and forever. And you could get a call stuck for a long time. So we don't want that. If someone calls in and they don't have any input, we want the call to hang up. But when do we know it should hang up? So right here, we're going to create basically a loop detector that's going to detect how many times it's looped through. And if it loops more than 3 times, it'll kill the call. So I'm going to create a variable. We're just going to call it loop. And then anytime you use variables, these little guides will pop up down at the bottom. So these will help you if you're trying to use any of our modules, whatnot. They'll give you some suggestions of how to use them. And so I'm going to follow the suggestion it has right here and access the variable with let's see, cent and curly bracket. The variable was loop. And so we're going to make it itself plus 1. So it comes in, it's 0 to begin with because it doesn't exist, but then it's plus 1. So then it becomes 1. After this, we're going to create a condition right here. And put it down here a little bit. And the condition is going to check the loop. So we're going to go back in and do the loop here. And so now we're going to say if the loop is greater than 2, execute this green node. So that means if it's looped more than, well, this will be technically 3 times because the first time it comes through is 0, second time is 1, third time will be 2. Or, well, I guess either way. It'll cut through. My math might not be right, but either way, it'll end the call after a certain amount of loops. So I'm going to do a hang up right here. So that way it hangs up the call. Now, if it doesn't hit that loop, we want it to loop back around. I could just send this right back, but it might be a little bit confusing. So let's tell the caller what's going on. I'm going to do play text to speech. I'm not even going to set these right now. Technically, if you leave the language blank, we'll use a default voice, and it will function. You might have preferences. The specific voices can be better than others, but I'm just going to leave this as default since it really doesn't matter for this example. But we could say like that was not a valid option. And I'm putting this after the end, so it's already determined that whether or not it's going to kill the call from the loop rather than it coming immediately after that. Put this over here up to there. There we go. Okay, maybe this wasn't the best spot for that one, but either way, we got it looped protected right now. So we'll come through, it'll loop 3 times. If it does, then it fails or kills the call. Otherwise, it'll go right back through. We would want to do the same logic, oops, right over here for our other module. I guess you'd technically want to do this for any gather module that you're using as a good little prevention. I'm going to call this one 2. We're going to call it loop 2 because the previous loop variable will still carry over. You can use variables across any call flows. So I'm going to do loop 2 so that way it knows this is our second module. Otherwise, it's the same exact logic where we're going to feed both of these in. We're going to add a condition. Loop 2 greater than 2. And then what we can do actually too, you can reuse, as Chelsea showed here, you can reuse some of these hang-up modules. So I don't need to drag in a new hang-up one. I can just go, yeah, just hang up the call right there. And then if we need to loop back, we can add that text-to-speech one again. Just say, not a valid option. Connect it there. And then we'll send it back. Right there. So now we've got loop protection on both of our gather inputs. That's great. So let's see, what else could we do to make this a little bit better? Number one, here's something. So we're hard coding in our movie times, right? We're putting it directly into the play text to speech and the send SMS. If you're changing a lot, you're going to have to update both of these modules. So one thing you might want to do if you are not pinging any sort of external server to get this information is you could set your movies as variables and then call them that way. So before the call even hits our gather input module, I'm going to put a set variables and I'm going to call it, we can do this. We'll do movie 1. Got 3 movies here. Let's create 3 variables all in one. Oops. Oops, no spaces. No spaces allowed. And I'm just going to copy what Chelsea created here. Mean Girls is movie 1. We will put that right there. And then we have Godfather right here. So the purpose of this is if you did need to go in and change your flow, you can change them right here in the set variables option instead of having to update both of your modules each time. Whoops. My computer's lagging a little bit when I'm dragging it around here. There we go. So then now what we could do is go back to this and we can just change this to access our variables instead. Oops. Movie 1. Oops, no, that says move 1, movie 1. And then I'm just paste this 3 times and we just change it. Movie 2 and movie 3. And we do the same thing for up here. I'm actually going to make this even better because it might not have been clear right away, but the way the text-to-speech works through this, it's going to read them all through. And even if you put periods and commas and everything, it might end up kind of mashing the words together. When it's reading times and movie names, it can get a little bit confusing. So this might look a little more confusing on this end, but it's going to be a quality of life thing for the people that are calling in. So let's say we hit our first call in. We'll do text to speech, and it just needs to be movie one because it's going to read the time as is. So we just put the variable movie one, and that's it. After that, I'm going to go do another separate play text to speech. And this is, I guess, not really a secret functionality. We have this all documented on our site, but there's other things you can do with the play audio file besides just literally playing an audio file. For example, if I type silence :1, that does a 1 second. Basically, this is the amount of time in seconds that they will just play silence. So it'll do a 1 second play of silence. It'll read one movie, play a second of silence, and then now we want it to come back and read the second movie. I'm doing this. If you notice me struggling, it's because I'm actually doing this on a smaller monitor I have. This is to help you guys because I thought it'd be a little bit easier to read. As you can tell, it gets a little tricky to navigate when you have such a small window, but I'll suffer so that you guys can actually read what I'm doing. So I swear it navigates better on a bigger window, but this way there's no tiny font that I'm messing with that you guys aren't seeing. And here's movie 3. And so there we go. So the nice thing too now is this can all stay. We never, even if you change movie times, you never need to change that. You just change your movie times right here. You set them in this variable right there. So that's sounding a little bit better. Our caller will be able to hear these movie times a little better. We should put this back into the hang up. One thing to clarify too, that Chelsea said, is a lot of these flows, if they do end with no other instructions, they will actually hang up automatically. We do want to consciously hang up some of them. So it is good practice to just automatically always end it to a hang up. But you don't necessarily have to worry about if you leave any module open, it will always leave the call going permanently. Majority of them will disconnect the call, but in general, it's good practice to just send it there. The last improvement I can think of is going to be one that's, I guess, a little extra, but I want to show this off so that way you can get an idea of sort of exactly what Adam's saying right there. Is there a way to bring in data dynamically, say if a call times are updated and having to come back in time? So that's exactly what I'm going to show off right here. Let's say, and I'm going to do this example because this is like a free example. You can use our request node right here to interact with really any webhook that you need to, any URL you put here. So this could be your own database and probably would be primarily how you use this. You're going to have it access your own database. This example I'm going to use right now, I like examples that use like publicly accessible APIs and just literally you guys could do this right now. So I'm gonna create something for you guys right here. This is a little extra feature. We have press 2 to figure out what time we're open. But if you want to connect with a person, maybe we want it only to forward if we're open, right? So I'm going to delete these modules right here, and I'm going to send these actually into our request. Now with the request module, I'm going to copy and paste a URL, but this URL is just this. It's timeapi.io, which anyone can go to right now. It's just a free time API. And you can see I'm getting the current time zone for America, Chicago. I'm doing get to get the data, and I'm going to save the variables so that way we can use them throughout the flow. So here we go. Now, the nice thing is the request module actually comes with a condition module built in. So we are going to use the data that we get here in a condition. So the description right here actually gives a good explanation of how we're going to access this data. So what I need to do is I don't need anything in the headers. I don't need anything in my body that I'm sending. I'm just getting data back, but I want to set a condition based on the data I get back. So we're going to do request response, which I know that just because it says right here, request variables are associated with request response and then the object field. For this API, it gives you, the hour, minute, second. It actually goes down to the millisecond, but we just want the hour right now. So we're saying request response hour. So it's going to look for what hour that is. And I'm going to say, let's say, is greater than or equal to 10. So I forget what the hours Chelsea had originally set for a movie theater, but I'm overriding it and I say 10 a.m. is when we open. So anything if the request hour is equal to or over 10, it will send the call this way. Now we also want to handle when we close. So we're going to say and we put it in here again, request response. Now this is an and, meaning that both of these conditions must be met. So it must be after 10 or I'll say before 20. So that's 8 p.m., right? So if this call comes in between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., it will take the request one, or it will pass everything here. And so we will want to forward it onto our phone number because that means we're open. So that's good. But now if it doesn't, if they're calling in on one of those other times, that's when we can go put over here and do anything like, sorry, we are currently closed. Leave a message. I'm going to send that here. And then about reusing bins that I mentioned before, let's reuse the voicemail bin that Chelsea already made. In case there's any sort of failure with connecting to the call, we can just send that right over there too. So that way all our voicemails are going to that same voicemail bin. And then I guess if there's any failure with the API as well, we can do that. But you might also just want to say, if there's a failure, let's just try the phone number, I guess, because this is more about a failure about reaching the time API, not about anything else. So if it fails to even know what time it is, then I guess try the phone number, might as well. But here's just a simple little thing that there's an S on hours. Did I type? I might have had a top. I might have had a typo. You're right. Good call. Good call. Thank you, guys. Back checking me as I go through. But yes, so this is just like a simple one that anyone can try right now because that time API, like I said, it's publicly accessible. You guys can do it. Set whatever time zone you think you need. This would be a common one too that I think a lot of people might want to direct calls based on whether your business is open or directed to a voicemail if you guys are going to be closed. So that's, I guess, about all that I've got to show for this. So you can see we've got a much more complicated call flow, but it's got a lot more quality of life features for not only the caller, but yourself too, with being able to minimize where you're updating things and whether or not calls are going to your phone number or just going right to a voicemail.
Do you want to show them? I forgot to show them where to purchase a phone number and how to connect that phone number to
Sure
said
thing.
flow.
Yeah, sure thing. So if I back out, you can just go to the phone numbers tab right within your space. I've already purchased a phone number, but otherwise you could also click the new button right there to purchase a brand new number. Once you click on the number, you can choose the first option for edit settings. It's going to default. You could also give the number a name right here. So we could call it movie theater. And then we could say when a call comes in, we're using a call flow. And it is the SignalWire movie theater demo. And then always remember to click save at the bottom so it knows to keep that setting. And
And
now
you
you
can
call in.
choose whether you use the deployed version or a workable version. So
Yeah, that's a
you
very good
can,
point to bring up.
yeah, if you
So
want to deploy it and then continue making changes and edits, your flow will continue to work. And then once you've fixed and changed your flow to how you want it, you can redeploy it and then it will be live.
correct, yeah. And so to change that within the call flow too, that's right up here. So for example, if you make any changes, if I have it set to deployed version, if you click deploy, it's telling me invalid settings because we haven't set a phone number on the forward to phone, but that's fine. So it's warning you right now, this flow will fail because we don't have a phone number right here. But since I click deploy, that means now if I make any changes on this, it will still just always be accessing the deployed version, and any changes I make won't immediately ruin a flow.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have about 12 minutes. So I'm going to move us out of this view here. let's go here. Hi. Hello, everyone. Now we have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, if you'd like to, I know that we have some questions in the chat that we can look at answering. If you want to work one-on-one with somebody from our team, just let us know. But looking at some of the questions here, somebody did ask how much to pour out. It's $5 per did or number. Somebody asked, how can we gather more complex inputs from callers, like a series of numbers, or i.e. customer numbers?
So if that's almost like what I was saying, where you might want to take the unknown input, is where you can do that if it's sort of inputting anything and you can't necessarily predict what your caller might be entering. So it's obviously more than if they're just inputting one digit. If you need them to input multiple digits, I don't know that Call Flow Builder has that currently. Like if you're like entering your account info now and you need to punch in 5 digits. Yeah, I don't know that I can do that right now.
So we are still in beta with Call Flow Builder. It's a newer tool, but it's being used by a multitude of companies. So we always say, hey, if there's something that you're specifically looking for, send that feature request in so we can take a look at it. You can send that information either to myself, which is chelsea.botchke@signalwire.com. You can also reach our support team at support@signalwire.com. If you are looking to contact our sales department, it's easy, sales@signalwire.com. Let's see if there's any other good questions. And if you'd like to unmute and ask your question live, we welcome that as well. By the way, port in is free. I didn't say that before when I answered the port out question. If not, I mean, we can end a few minutes early. We've got 9 minutes left. I appreciate everybody joining us today. We will have this recording available hopefully tomorrow or Friday. We will send everybody who's attended an email with the recording link. It's also available on our YouTube channel, so definitely follow us on YouTube. And again, I'll include all the links and everything in the email for all of the documentation that we talked about today. Thank you again, everybody, for joining.